Hey guys, it's John here from Bring the SEO. In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating revenue-focused SEO. This is something that is sort of goes against the grain, certainly within the SEO community. This is something that I've been talking about now for quite some time, and it's always made for an interesting conversation because whenever I talk about rankings not being important, a lot of SEO consultants tend to get upset. And I've always said that an SEO campaign, that is traditional SEO, doesn't really make much sense, especially when you compare it to other forms of marketing, such as AdWords or Facebook ads, where you're able to clearly demonstrate a return on investment. For whatever reason, when it comes to SEO, the definition has somehow been lost. It's somehow we've managed to move away from SEO being a marketing channel, and now it seems to just be about vanity metrics, which I think is wrong. So in this short presentation, I'm going to share with you how you can shift away from traditional SEO, that is chasing vanity metrics, keywords and rankings, and instead focus on the metrics that actually matter, which for all of your clients will typically be revenue, increasing the bottom line, getting customers and making sales. So as I said just a moment ago, traditional SEO makes no sense. And this is because almost all SEO consultants and agencies are selling rankings, and it really doesn't mean anything. And we know this to be true. You can visit almost any agency's website and it'll be covered in the following wordage: rank higher in Google, rank for more keywords, or first page rankings within 90 days. This is fairly typical. Within the SEO industry. And again, it really doesn't mean anything. And this is essentially the conversation that I've been having for at least the last 8 or so years. I've always said rankings don't mean much if the client's phones aren't ringing. If they're not getting customers and making sales and generating revenue, then it doesn't really mean much. There's point that you can't send a report to a client saying, hey, guess what? We're first page for fluffy bunnies. Doesn't mean anything. So let's have a look at some of the problems that exist with traditional SEO, starting with some of the problems that clients experience. That is, of course, when they're being sold rankings or focusing again on vanity metrics. Firstly, confusing monthly reports. Clients often don't understand the reports they're being sent. And I know this to be true. I've had multiple discussions with business owners working with other agencies. And I know this was true when I first got started, because I simply sent reports very similar, if not identical, to the vast majority of other agencies. They would, as I say here, reports are usually full of meaningless charts, bar graphs and squiggly lines, not to mention the sheer amount of confusing technical jargon that they're stuffed full of. And this is, for business owners that don't understand any of this is a huge problem. And the result of this, of course, is that clients are left wondering what it is they're actually paying for. Secondly, mismatch in conversation. This happens over time as a client realizes there's two very different conversations going on. Their focus is sales, getting customer sales and revenue, increasing that bottom line. Whereas a lot of SEO consultants, especially those who are fixated on technical SEO, are talking about links and keywords and rankings and articles and, all of this other technical nonsense, which really to the client doesn't mean anything. And the result of this is that clients are left wondering if the agency actually understands what they're trying to achieve. Having a mismatch in conversation like this can be incredibly frustrating for business owners. And it's one of the few reasons why many of them decide to cancel the service. No sign of ROI. This is the big one, right? The client has no idea if they're making a return on their investment, especially if they're getting a confusing report each month. They're putting in all of this money month on month. They're getting a confusing report back, and they're thinking, what on earth does this actually mean? Is this doing anything? We don't know. And the result of that is the client feels as though they're just burning cash with no end in sight. And, this equates to the client seeing the entire thing as an expense and therefore go about cancelling the service. Now, I've surveyed a lot of business owners who have engaged in SEO services, and almost all of them have said, we cancelled the service because it was just an expense. We don't know. We couldn't see if we were getting anything out of it. So no sign of ROI is a huge problem. And this is, of course, why revenue-focused SEO makes so much sense. Now, let's take a look at some of the problems that SEO consultants experience when they're pitching and selling rankings. Firstly, toxic behavior. Dealing with clients who panic every time they drop one place in the SERPs. I've experienced this, and I'm sure for most other SEO consultants, they've experienced it too, and it can be enough to make you lose your mind. There's nothing worse than having a client call or email you saying, hey, look, we're in position 3 last month. Now we're in position 4. What's wrong? They don't understand that the search results are dynamic and ever changing. And this, of course, leads to dealing with rude or impatient clients that are fixated on vanity keywords. Vanity keywords, these are keywords that not all, but certainly some clients want to rank for simply because they can tell their buddies at golf. And this is, again, not a great place to be because you end up, as I say here, you end up caught between demanding and dissatisfied clients and the SERPs. And that is highly stressful. Which brings me to my next point. Chasing rankings is exhausting. Ranking, especially within highly competitive markets, can be challenging enough without having the added stress and worry of having the client constantly checking to see where their keywords are currently ranked. And then, which brings me to my next point. The constant stress associated with search positioning, minor fluctuations, and updates is never ending. And you end up on this hamster wheel of, we're in position 2, we're in position 5, we're in position 1, we're in position 3. And it's even worse when you've got keywords that are incredibly difficult to rank for. There might be highly competitive terms that are stuck on, back on page 2. That can be incredibly stressful, especially if you've got a keyword or rankings fixated client, like I said. And the results of this, of course, is that clients face exhaustion due to feeling like they're going around and around in circles. Next point is low retention rates. And this, of course, is, this is the result of all of these problems combined. Your churn rates are high simply because clients can't see a return on investment. And this, when you've got high churn rates, low retention rates, you end up in a position of having to constantly chase new leads and looking for new projects. And the result of that, of course, is instability around income. Now, I've always said that clients think they know what they want, but it's not what they need. And this is, I guess, comparable in some ways to that saying around, the drill and the hole. They don't want the drill, they want the hole. Yet everyone's selling them drills and focusing on drills. Focus on the hole instead. That's what they need. To give you an example of this, typically when you jump on a call with a new prospect or a lead, and this might even be true for clients when they come on board and start working with you, the entire conversation will be focused in and around rankings, and you'll hear these sorts of things from the client. We need to be first page for this keyword, or we need to improve our rankings, or we need to rank higher in Google. We know that to be true. But guess what happens after they've been paying a $2,500 invoice for 8 months? Suddenly that conversation changes because they realize that they spent all this money and they're not quite sure if any of that money is coming back. That conversation suddenly changes from rankings to now revenue. And you'll start hearing these types of questions and concerns coming from the client. We really need to start seeing some form of ROI. Or we're not sure if this is working. If things don't pick up, we'll have to cancel. Or how much longer will it take for us to start getting customers and making sales? And again, that's a stressful place to be. And just going back to my previous slide, this is why you have to have the conversation about revenue at the beginning of the engagement, not, 6 to 8 or 12 months in when it's too late. Now, I've always said that rankings matter, and I want to make this clear because I know when I start telling SEO consultants that keywords and rankings don't matter, they get quite upset. But rankings, I will say this, rankings matter, but they shouldn't be the objective, right? And this is where I think things get skewed because they start looking at, start seeing the reports around vanity metrics and keywords as the primary KPI, which is not right. So how do we provide revenue-focused SEO? How can we get away from all of that, all of those problems, and clearly demonstrate return on investment for our clients? The first thing we need to do is determine what the lead or sale value is for our clients, right? In other words, what a transaction is worth to the client. Now, it's important here that we get something on the low end on average because we want to avoid overinflating the numbers. So let's say, for example's sake, we pick up a commercial plumber and each job for them on average is worth $1,000. Now, from that, we need to calculate an agreed goal value. Now, the goal value is important because it's how we'll calculate estimated earnings within our reports. So the goal value, just to clarify, the goal value is calculated at 25% of the lead or sale value. Okay, so going back to our commercial plumber as an example, each job on average is worth $1,000. So we'll track conversions at $250. That's 25%, right? Now there's a reason why we track conservatively. We know that they're not going to close every single inquiry that they get, right? I think that's fairly obvious. We also know that they're going to get a few inquiries coming through the website where it's not a legitimate inquiry. They might get some spam emails that come through, might be an existing customer that calls back, it might be a wrong number. So we need to allow for that. And lastly, we don't want to show overinflated numbers within our reports. There's no point sending over a report and saying, hey, Bob, this month we did $160,000 where they may have only done $90,000. So we want to be conservative with what the numbers that we report against, because you're best off being under rather than over. Now, of course, once we have that goal value, we can then set up goals within Google Analytics to capture when those events are fired. So in other words, each time a web form is submitted or a call is made, this is tracked within Google Analytics and assigned the agreed goal value of $250. So when someone fills out a web form and sends an inquiry, the conversion is tracked along with that monetary value. And the same applies for phone calls, right? These are successful calls using call tracking software, not on-click events. Again, the conversion is tracked with the monetary value. Now, showing it within a report, that's simple. We need to firstly filter out organic search traffic only and show conversions that are associated to that traffic type, right? And as you can see here, I've got, for this particular client, total number of customer inquiries was 130 for the month. 69 of those 130 were phone calls. These are actual calls made using call tracking software. And the estimated monthly revenue for this particular client was $65,000. That's at an agreed goal value. The goal value is $500. And this is, of course, this particular site performing at 6.12%. And you can see the pages of which have resulted in successful conversions. So it's very, very simple. Now, a couple of important notes. Firstly, if you intend on charging, let's say, $3,500 or $5,500 a month, or even if you intend on charging, let's say, $2,500 a month, the lead value must be adequate. You can't be working with clients that are selling $5 widgets, because you've got to be selling a lot of widgets in order to be able to achieve a positive return on investment. So I typically recommend that your clients have that transactional value or that lead value should be at least $1,000. If you can get up in the $2,500 or $3,000, that's even better. The second point here is clients must be tracking also using a CRM, or at the very least asking where their leads are coming from. Okay, this is really important because you want the data to be meaningful. You can't be working with business owners that are just writing down notes on KFC napkins. They've got to have their shit together. So you can both work together and say, okay, this is what we see at our end. What do you see at your end? You can match the data and it's actually meaningful. Next point is goal value can be adjusted up or down over time as required. So if you find that 25% is too low, you can bring it up. If it's too high, you can take it down. And you'll learn over time as you move your way through the campaign as to whether or not, as to which way that goal value that you're tracking within Google Analytics, whether that needs to be adjusted up or down. Now, next point is you must have control over your conversion points. Right, this is incredibly important. So there's no way of web visitors bypassing tracking. So you don't have the phone number in the meta description or the meta titles or floating around somewhere in the content. All of your web forms carry the tracking code. You don't have naked email addresses in the footer. Everything needs to be tracked. So it's incredibly important that you have control over those conversion points. Everything else needs to be stripped away. Now, of course, an ideal outcome is where you can both compare data and be confident in the numbers, like I just said. Now, I want to finish up by saying this. Since I shifted to revenue-focused SEO, and I made the shift probably, at least 8 or 9 years ago, and I would never go back to the traditional way of doing SEO because it just doesn't make sense. I want to share a couple of points here around why I believe a revenue-focused SEO is easier. Firstly, you can charge more. Look, if the client's putting in $1, they're pulling the lever month on month and they're getting $5 or $6 out, then, charging $2,500 at a minimum is an absolute no-brainer. And the client will continually throw money at you month on month once they know they're getting a positive return on investment. And if you're smart enough, you can actually move from a low rate, charging, working an hourly based rate, to value based. And this is essentially where you can just pick a number out of thin air and say, okay, well, you guys are getting $150,000, $200,000 out of this work that's being done. We're going to raise our rates to $7,500. And in most cases, if not all, they won't have a problem with doing that because they can clearly see a positive return on investment. So that's my first point. My second point is your retention rates will soar. Clients will not leave if they know they're getting a positive return on investment. I mean, why would they? Next point is clients won't be hassling you all the time because, again, if they can see that they're putting $1 in and they're getting $4, $5, or $6 out, they're going to have absolute trust and confidence in you and your team. You know what you're doing and you're doing the job properly. So they'll leave you alone to do the job, which is perfect. Next point is the constant worry about rankings and the unpredictability of the SERPs goes away. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're in position 4 or position 3. So long as that revenue, those transactions are coming through and the numbers make sense, clients will stop caring about keywords, rankings, and all of those other silly vanity metrics. And lastly, the results become indisputable. You can clearly demonstrate ROI. And again, this is an ideal outcome. And I want to finish by sharing something with you real quick. The way in which you run an SEO campaign, as I said at the beginning of this presentation, should be very similar to the way in which you would run an AdWords or PPC campaign. You wouldn't sit down with a client at the end of the month and have them ask, okay, John, this month we spent $65,000 on AdWords, on Google Ads. What was our return on that? You can't say to them, who cares about that? All of our ads are on first page. It just doesn't make sense. So take the time to think about shifting over to revenue-focused SEO, and things will be much more beneficial, not just for you, but also for the client. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to learn more, head over to bringtheseo.com. We provide business development training for SEO consultants wanting to improve their processes, increase profits, and scale to $100,000 a month or more without all the stress and overwhelm.